Good afternoon. I once again welcome you all to the half-yearly and the second quarter results analyst meet. And we declared the results on Saturday. I'm sure you all must have gone through that. And before I begin, let me introduce. On my left-hand side is Mr. Arun Kumar. Most of you know him. He's the Director of Finance and CFO. And Rajiv Malhotra, who is the Executive Director and the Chief Risk Officer of the group. Most of the talking will be done by the Director of Finance, who has come to decode the quarterly and half-yearly results. But I just wanted to state that it has been a business as usual quarter and half-yearly, where changes in the business ecosystems have also been in sync with the company's core philosophy, which we have been guiding always. And I see the two drivers in the ecosystem which has emerged. One is transparency and more information in public procurement processes. That has been for last 2 years since the new government has come. Their philosophy has been to get as many things as much into the world of computers, and everything is online, whether it is short-term marketing where the deep guidelines came, or procurement of coal, or competitive bidding prices, long-term, medium-term, everything has been put into a public platform. And that is why the Uday, which is coming up now, is also trying to create the similar ecosystem. And the process is going on. And second important limb or the driver of the ecosystem is also competitive power pricing. Now, these two are the main drivers, and they are in line with PTC's philosophy. And therefore, you see developments like DEEP and a shift of short-term volumes, which we have been, when we started the industrial consumers way back in 2012, we had been strategically also knowing that sooner or later they are going to become more and more important. So we have kept a very good cushion there, and most of them currently we are supplying through the exchanges. And we will see in the results, Mr. Arun Kumar will take you through that what has been in the short term, what has been the increase in the exchange traded volumes, and PTC is one of the main drivers of the energy exchanges also. Now, regarding the long term, however, these trends will dovetail to technology-centric products. That's very important from a PTC perspective, or anyone who wants to play in the market. Technology is going to be, we have seen enough disruptive technology which we are seeing, whether retail products or everywhere. So in power sector also, we believe that technology-centric products are going to come a big way in the long term. Second one, which is very important, is use of analytics in augmenting the core offerings. See, renewables, 5 years back, they were very least talked about. Yeah, we knew about solar, 15 rupees in Gujarat, 1 megawatt, 2 megawatt. None of us could think that today, as we are speaking, we are more than 9 gigawatt in solar itself, and wind has been also there. The market, which was, the solar started through a bidding process, wind till now, and I think till 31st March 17, has only survived on the feed-in tariff connected to the state grids. PTC has always been saying that for a proper market to come in the renewable, this also, it's not only a competitive bidding process which is going to start in wind, but also we are going to see that instead of just being generation being set up in the same state, the generation will be now set up in the more efficient states, as we used to see in the thermal power. That we always emphasize that it is better to have thermal power plants where the coal belt lies, whether it is Chhattisgarh or Jharkhand or Odisha, have the power plants there Transmission lines are, transmission pricing is much cheaper, is going to be cheaper than the transportation cost. So many people understood, but some of the states, because of that feeling that we should have the same generation, your generation from which you are having into your own state. And that's the reason we see so many power plants in thermal in great stress in places like Punjab and Haryana. Because I was just some time back while discussing, we realized that the transportation cost itself is going to be not less than 1.5 rupees. I'm not talking about the coal prices. Because a place like Punjab, if you carry coal from Chhattisgarh or Odisha or Jharkhand, the transportation cost is very high. Similarly, in renewable also, wind will start seeing that generation will be coming from the places where maximum wind density is there, wind flow is there, and the buying will be done by non-windy states. And third thing, the long-term trend is balancing pricing and consumer interest concerns with the sustainability of generation facilities. This becomes very important when we see the falling prices, and beyond certain prices, the marginal cost pricing, etc., come into picture. And I will not like to name, but in 3 days back, one of the main person who is responsible for transmitting, he's the nerve, he's one of the nerves of this country, the transmission network, when he also announced that with more and more complexity happening in the Indian power sector, with more renewable coming, more disturbances coming, it is only a power market which will allow the things to work in a sustainable way. Frankly speaking, as the chairman of the largest trading company, it was music to my ears. And that's the reason we have been focused, and I'm sure Mr. Rajiv Malhotra, either in his question answer or what is the type of technology-centric products and use of analytics in augmenting the core offerings, what he is doing, I'd like him to cover this either in the question answer or in his opening remarks. Now, PTC's business model and planning for the next 3 years horizon is mindful of all this, and therefore we have initiatives in the long-term and short-term end of the portfolio. We have been balancing that, as we have been saying that more and more long-term should be coming. That the good thing is short-term, the mix is changing, but because we have been able to capture these new products 4-5 years in advance, so our volumes there also keeps going up, and therefore the ratio of short-term and long-term continues to be hovering between 55-45, 60-40 ratio. Second one has been, we have also our mind is very clear in next 3 years, when I am talking of medium-term planning, that promoting renewable energy-based generation. And as a trader, as you must have read, that we have backed for the wind also 1000 megawatt, the future bidding which the SECI is doing, so that there is no conflict of interest. So we are not at all in that documentation process and bidding process. But whatever the price will be discovered, PTC is going to be buying and selling those products on a long-term horizon. And third one is technology enabling the critical customer-facing processes. So in the end, I'd just like to say that in spite of the challenging situation in terms of DISCOM's financial and liquidity, which has been of concern for last so many years, last 10-12 years since the time we have been listed, we have always been hearing the top of the concern has been that, but we have been managing it very well, and therefore we have kept our receivable position to always a manageable level. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'll take you through the results of Q2 and half yearly of FY17. Our total volume during this quarter have been close to 15 billion units. we saw an increase of 24% to the corresponding quarter of the earlier year, and there have been increase in revenue also to the extent of 19%. EBITDA increased by 7% from 180 to 192, and PAT increased by 10%, that is 102 to 113. The half yearly, we saw a volume growth of 22%, close to 27 billion, and total revenue increased by 16%, where the EBITDA increased by 7% and the PAT by 11% to 169.53 from 152.1. The key highlights of the Q2 have been that PTC has been selected as a trading partner for Ministry of Renewable scheme for development of 1,000 megawatt wind farm. Under this scheme, the windy states the developer will develop the wind farms, and this power is to be billed to the non-windy states. The PTC will be the nodal agency to buy this power and sell this power. The company continues to grow its direct business segment to industrial customers. We have increased our traded volume from 9,286 million unit in a half year from the earlier half year of 6,436 million units. We also signed agreement with Southern Railway in Tamil Nadu for supply of 100 to 120 megawatt, and Southern Central Railway in Andhra Pradesh for 200 megawatt. This supply will start in the month of February and March 2017 respectively. Ministry of Power launched the D program, where there's a bidding portal where everybody will bid for the short-term power, that is from day to 1 year. And PTC have been successfully participating. We have won the bids in the state of Rajasthan, Uttarakhand, Karnataka, Punjab. Coming to PTC, wholly owned subsidiary PTC Energy, we are developing the portfolio of renewable energy. During the current year, already agreement for 240 megawatt have been signed and projects are under execution. Last year, PTC Energy has successfully commissioned 50 megawatt wind farms. This is the breakup of the physical performance, giving short-term trades, medium trades, long-term trades, wind, their percentage constitution, which has gone and the growth respectively in the Q2 of FY17 and FY16. So there has been an increase in the long-term volumes, in short-term trades, medium-term trades. The wind, which its own capacity of the PTC, that is not much of the change. In half yearly, there have been increase in short-term volumes, medium-term, long-term trades, and we have grown to 27.782 from 22.811 billion units. These are the numbers giving the breakup of the total expenses. We are preparing our accounts by Ind AS, compliant with the present standard which are required in the current financial year. The impact is incorporated for, including the other comprehensive income, and our income for the profit for the year quarter in FY17 for Q2 stands 112.92 compared to Q2 FY16 102.28. So that is close 10.4% more. In Q1 of FY17 this was 56.32. These are the comparison of half yearly results between FY16 and FY17. Our profit stands at 169.24 as against 152.02. That's a growth of 11% compared to the half year of the last year. There is a breakup of the rebate and surcharge and what has been our margin per unit with surcharge and tolling converted to PPA and without. Tolling has already stopped long back, and whatever power we have been selling from those two units, Simapuri and Meenakshi, that was also up to May of this year. Our debtor stands at 3878 crores, creditor at 2718, 2.82 crores. This gives the growth in volumes, revenues, PBT and PAT from FY10 to FY15. The comparative figures. It shows a annual year-on-year growth in volume of 15%, the revenue 11% because of the prices, PBT 18% and PAT 17%. Our vision still remains that we want to be front runner in the power trading by developing a vibrant power market and to correct the market distortion. Thank you. We can take the question answer now.
Hello. So, can you help me with what was the investment in PTC Energy during Q2?
In Q2, we are given 300 up to 3. No, the current, sorry. In the current first Q1 and Q2, we are given 370 crores, and after that, we are given 19 crore more. So during this current financial year, we are given 389 crores.
See, what I'll just explain that last year 50 megawatt was operational. For this year, they have given orders also for around 240 to 50 megawatt. So by the year end, by 31st March 17, it should be an operational company of about 300 megawatt. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, about 300 megawatt, they will be operational company.
The second question is on the, you said that you have tied up for with railways for 120 and 200 megawatts. Can you provide what is the term over, whether it is short term, medium term contract, what kind of contract are they?
It is a short term contract for limited period. But the challenges, we are facing the same challenges which we have been facing for any open access customer. That the distribution, see railways basically, we worked with railways for last 3 years. And even we went to regulatory commission, also CRC, where CRC held that they are the deemed distribution licensee. They don't require, they are not required the no objection certificate. Like as a industrial customer, you have to keep taking an NOC. But in spite of that, CRC making a judgment also, still they have been every utility, when we go, they still file to the CRC for no objection. And this thing goes on, the delays, etc., whatever they can do. But we believe that we have to be, because this is one thing which cannot be avoided. The writing has been there on the wall. And with this new government which has come, the things they are also going with much more transparency and much more clarity, which will help in boosting their balance sheets of their state utilities over a period of time. So with these things, we believe that we have to keep knocking. Sooner or later, the market has opened up, but there is humongous opportunity there. It can be 5x, 10x very quickly, provided it starts working in the pure market operation, which is still not there in the state utilities.
My next question is on the debtors and receivables. So debtors and receivables in absolute term has increased substantially. Is this because of Ind AS accounting, or is because of volume?
Because of Ind AS, because of the long term volume being added, which have a 60 days period for repayment. So this
there's
is
no off the balance sheet item which is added to the receivables.
There's no off balance sheet item, and I have been explaining from time to time that debtors and creditor position depends on a particular day. Okay. Depending on the billing cycle. Let me assure you, there is no cause of worry on account of debtors.
Okay. And last question on the margin. So, we till Q1 FY17, a margin were around 5 paisa. This quarter it has come down to 4.6 paisa. So, any particular reason, and going forward, what kind of a blended margin you were looking at?
One of the main reason is that prices itself have come down drastically in short term as well as in exchange. And if you see, the average price has been hovering around 270, 280 at the buyer's periphery. So naturally, when everybody is under pressure, you have to also work with them.
Okay, thank you.
And no doubt we have been growing on the volumes. So on absolute terms, we have been increasing.
Hi sir, this is Apur from ICICI Securities. Sir, I wanted to know one more on this CTU connected wind project. So given the current state of affairs with the DISCOMs, the curtailment that's going on and the payment delays, do you see a lot of appetite for this?
See, we have done the initial, pre-marketing discussions, etc. And there is sufficient interest. See, Government of India wanted to start with a big bang of a larger this thing, but we advised them that being the and we really thankful to them that they could also understand when PTC is making a statement. So they said, let's start with 1,000 megawatt. We said first contract will have its own challenges. You can't foresee everything. So let it be there, let it stabilize. But there is enough demand for 1,000 megawatt in energy terms, even if 30% efficiency, because wind etc. in good zone, 35%, still in the energy term it is equivalent to about, compared to thermal which operates on a 60-70% nowadays, so let's say half. So for 500 megawatt in our pan-India basis, absorption capacity is tremendous.
And how exactly will this process play out? So will the developers first bid for the tariffs and then we'll go to the states for demand?
That's what I'm saying. The pre-marketing we are doing it. We have requested MNRE. They have written letters to also from the central government also to all the state utilities that this is what we are going to come up. And they have also said in that letter that PTC is a trader for that, so that they will be contacting you for your demand, etc. appetite. So price discovery will take place through the bidding process, and which we believe it should be competitive. It should be good competition is going to be generated, because the IPPs, the wind energy suppliers, everyone has been contacting informally PTC marketing people, and this is what they tell us, that there seems to be very good initial interest. Let's wait for 2-3 months. I'm sure within 2-3 months everything will be very crystal clear.
One more question on the same topic for site selection and all. Since it is so important in wind, so has that already been done by the government, or will the developer, the owners will be on the developers?
Everything to be done by developer. Everything to be done by developer, and that's the reason we said instead of getting to 5,000 megawatt, let's go for 1,000 megawatt, because we know that there is sufficient land bank available with all these guys. I'll not like to name them, but they all the large developers or this thing, they have got and near to the power pooling central, because they will be connected to CTU. So proximity to up to CTU is their problem. It's not that at their bus bar. So
Fine, sir. Thanks.
Yeah, hi, this is Deepak here from Elara. Just continuing from previous question, what is the margin that you're expecting in this wind project? Like, is the SECI generally charges, both SECI as well as NTPC, they are charging 7 paisa, or for all the solar bids. So is that the same arrangement for PTC?
no, arrangement is going to be, it will be, because as Arun Kumar was explaining ultimately, and I just said in my opening remarks, it's going to be a pricing this thing affair, but it is going to be a very competitive market. So we will not be getting that, should not be getting that 7-8 paise charges. It will be slightly less than that. But today it's premature to say.
But in all the SECI tenders is
No,
also
even if we
specified
do the bidding, there are certain conditions, etc., which obviously let the documents, etc., come back, and then we'll be able to give a much better figure.
Okay. And secondly, do you call for the bids for PSA also, or that will be signed, that is the...
No bidding for the PSA, because under section 63, if the prices have been discovered through a competitive bidding prices, then regulators have to just adopt it, and in the ARRs, etc., or when the plant is, like for solar also we have seen the same thing. So on the same pattern, the states will be at the price discovered, there is enough, the demand is being put up through the letters and through initial marketing which we are saying, and they will all not give a firm demand without seeing the prices. If the prices are, let's say, I'm just hypothetically saying, on a 5 rupees side, then they will think. But if it is competitive and very competitive, and it suits this thing, and non-RPO, and the pressures on performance on the RPO is also increasing incrementally over last couple of years, and that's the reason we have seen so many things happening in solar.
Second, how has this been growth in the direct to business segment in this quarter? Like you mentioned in the slide, it was for H1. So how has been for this quarter?
Can you repeat your question?
The direct to business, the retail growth that you mentioned in the slide is for H1.
Yeah.
So how it has been during the quarter?
Quarter we can give you. That was given in. Short-term growth was 24%, close to 25%.
So I'm talking on slide 6, the direct to business segment growth.
That exchange growth is around 48%. The volume has grown from 3.3 billion unit to 4.9 billion units.
3.3 to 4.9.
Yeah,
In the quarter.
in the quarter.
And lastly, on PTC Energy, now, can you give some idea as to where this 240 megawatt coming up? And for 240 literally means if we assume around 7 crores a megawatt for the wind project, so we need about 500 crores equity, assuming 30% equity infusion. So till last quarter, we were maintaining we'll be putting around 300 crores in PTC Energy, and we are already upscaled to 400. So what is the plan, let's say from beyond FY17, from next 3 years point of view, we will keep in pumping more and more equity in PTC Energy to make it a sizable developer company?
The PTC Energy is targeting around 300 megawatt during the current year. And as I said, we have already given 389 crores during the current year. That was 370 in the first half and 19 later on. So the balance, what we have been assured them is of 600 because 86 they already drawn. So they're left with 126 for the current year. To meet
Sorry, 600 is the total commitment.
Total we made, out of which 86 we gave last year. And so far we have given 389 in the current year. That is including 19 in the third quarter until date. So balance we have to give only 126 crore up to, I'll say up to, for which they will be able to commission 300 megawatt during the current financial year, what they're targeting.
And what about for next 2-3 years point of view?
We'll see what we can do and we'll work out.
See, second, I'll just answer your first question that the places like last time we did in Madhya Pradesh, so we have distributed our risk. So we have chosen now this year Andhra and Karnataka, where the development is going on. And 600 or 600, whatever the commitment is there as on today. And we also know that it's going to be equity, much more equity will be required. So we are under discussion at the board level. And as we had done in PTC Financial Services, obviously PTC first has to debate that whether it wants to give any further money or not. So that debate is going on. And in case PTC says that let's get some other investors also, so that's what we'll do in the next year.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, sir. This is Charanjit here from B&K Securities. Yeah. Sir, if you can just help us understand the medium-term market, what will be the, key enablers for that, and when do you see that the medium-term market can start picking up, and, how the negotiations and all are going on, because now there is increasingly talk about having a shorter-term PPAs from the SCB side, and if you can just elaborate on that.
Enabling things which we have asked the ministry to do, and it is under active consideration that the coal linkage should be given to that. So I'm sure that's what the Ministry of Power is discussing. There are some differences between Ministry of Power and Ministry of Coal. So that's the reason it has not been done, because without a coal linkage, because no one wants to bid for 3 years or 4 years without knowing the coal prices. So at least the developers have burned their hands and legs, everything so badly in last 6-7 years. So they become very careful. So once those clarifications come, then the medium term will start kicking up. But there is enough, this thing, international transaction which we are doing is also showing them the way. So Bangladesh transaction was initially for 3 years, so which is going on currently and has been extended also by a couple of months. And they are all waiting for the cross border also. Government of India is coming out with some policy papers, etc. So after studying that, we'll come to know how it's going to happen. Even Nepal, that's what, yesterday I was in Kathmandu for last 2 days, and they have been also showing keen interest. They have been buying on a very short-term basis till date, every year's contract or every 6 months contract. So they are also understanding that if it is better if they can go for a medium term. So enabling things, enabling provisions are required, regulatory and policy support is required to kickstart the medium-term market.
And sir, a follow-up question, sir. You had actually highlighted about a 50 billion unit target for FY18. So if I have to take a little longer term view, maybe 2 to 3 years perspective, what is the kind of volume growth you are expecting? And the last question from my side would be, sir, if Rajiv sir could address about the technology initiatives and analytical, perspective, how it will, enable us to grow the volumes further from these levels. Thank you.
We have shared with you the year-on-year growth. Let me assure you that PTC will maintain its growth targets. That's the only thing, but exact figure as a listed company will not be able to provide you.
Obviously, Rajiv is going to help you out in details, etc. But I also wanted to introduce one of my colleagues who is here, Shivang Kapoor. Where are you, Shivang? Yeah, he is a business analyst whom we have hired, and he had experience of actual trading in international market also. So we have got him also for last how many months you have been there with Shivang?
Slightly more than a year, sir.
More than a year. So you have been working very silently, and that's the reason we didn't want to talk about it earlier. But now we have reached that stage where Rajiv will be guiding you, and if there are any questions, etc., both of them can answer during this thing also or post, because Rajiv is going to stay in any case tonight. So later on also a lot of if informal discussion he can have. Thank you.
I think the question you asked, Charanjit, is I'm actually taking a cue from the first part you said about which way is the medium term headed, because I heard you say that utilities are actually asking for shorter term contracts. So go back to the two major changes in the ecosystem that CMD has talked about, which is greater transparency in the public procurement processes, and therefore a push towards technology, and which, by the way, is not rocket science, because every other industry seems to have already done it. The power industry has been more concentrated on capturing the operational side of it when it comes to technology. So therefore what we already have in place is a technology infrastructure, or the IoT infrastructure. Now, what is it that the utilities are pushing for? With transparency, they are saying competitive pricing. In a transient kind of sense, you are seeing some short-term volumes going towards our exchange-traded volumes. So therefore, that's got a bit of impact on our margin also, but again, it's a transient thing. What is it that the utility is actually asking for? The most efficient pricing, which, by the way, it is not getting currently, even if it believes it is doing so, and the most efficient way of meeting its operational demand. How can we get there? Because Uday and all the recent initiatives are really talking about the utility forecasting its demand with a certain level of precision. So they are doing something, but there may be some utilities in this country, if not most, who are really adopting a feature of what was the load dispatch center data last year. That actually tends to get extrapolated and replicated this year. So to get to a level of precision where you say that I'm not just going to be doing one day ahead kind of power contracts and do that on a repeated basis, and then realize after a month that had I taken a bilateral contract for 45 days, I may have been much better off, because both the dispatch would have been more certain and the pricing may have on an average been better. How do you get there? So it's about demand forecasting as the foundation of those products. So obviously we are in that early stage where first thing, revamping our own information technology backbone, that was stage one, which we've done. Collaborating with a reliable partner for weather forecasts, because weather is at least a 60% explanatory variable for what's going on in the power demand side. and then get a little more ambitious over the next 1 or 2 years to see how these services add up to products that are very niche and specific for a utilities thing. We also realize at this point in time that there will not be a single forecasting solution for every utility, because every utility has its own peculiarities. So that's really what we are working, and technology enablement is the foundation there. We thought that when we started to do this, that we may be meeting resistance and so on, but on the contrary, we found a very high level of interest. Every utility is actually interested in going that way. So how quickly these things add to our top line or bottom line is a different call, but this is the way. If the secondary benefit of this is a greater certainty of the volumes that we dispatch even in the conventional market, I think we are happy to even live with that benefit as we discover. So more we can talk offline whenever you want. Yeah.
So there were 3 long-term contracts under which supply was supposed to start from October 2015 or 16. Has it started? Especially DB Power, Maruti Clean, and third one is, I forgot it. Started? TI Energy. So all of them started, or is it?
It should start any day now. That's what was told to me by the marketing people.
My second question was under the Tista Urja. When is Tista Urja supposed to get commission? Any
Tista
timeline?
Urja 3 units already dry running has been done, and for other 3 units there is a 450 meters of the transmission line which is under execution. The project is targeted for commercial operation by 31st March 2017, and it will maintain that.
Sir, under the SECI PP and PSC which are going to sign, is your obligation materially different from the other contracts, or is it similar? In the sense, if they default, what happens, let's say by ACBs?
See, that's what I'm saying, contracts are not yet out. So I'm sure my marketing people are in touch with them, and they must be looking at the experience of 14 years of contract management. Obviously, we'll be sharing with the Ministry of MNRE. But any long-term contract has to be similar in nature, basically. The type of risk as a trader, what you can assume, what you cannot assume, that you can't assume lack of generation or lack of transmission, etc. So I'm sure my marketing people will not sign till the time they don't get the comfort, yes, this is the manageable risk.
The third question pertaining to accounting. Have you classified a lot of your PPAs or contracts under lease, so under financial lease? Is it true?
Most of them are under financial lease. There is no one so far had come under operating lease. The total impact which has come really in terms of determination of long-term investment and short-term investment, where earlier it was done based on the market as the book value whichever is lower. Presently under the Ind AS it has to be on fair value. So it is only that treasury short-term investment and long-term investment of 35 crore, which brings the accounting impact. Even if the financial impact of what you're discussing, there is a contra entry, so they balance out at the end of any close quarter or half yearly or yearly. So they not really bring any change on the final financial results of the company, because we are a purchaser and a seller both sides, so that gets contra.
PTC cannot. But PTC Energy, yes, I mean not now, because as I said that you need a basically critical mass before you, because next year onwards, in any case, wind or solar, everything is on a competitive bidding. So if you want to be a generating company, then obviously you have to ensure that you start bidding. But in my opinion, I don't think we should be doing in the first 1,001, because we don't have land, number one. So you can be bidding only when you have land, etc. So which is not there today. So I don't think PTC Energy should be bidding.
Yes, sir. There have been So 3 or 4 contracts which have come out for power purchase. So could you tell us the status of that Karnataka tender that came out? That was the only medium-term tender that we've seen in a long time. And secondly, for the UP tender as well. Is there any update on that side?
Not to my notice.
UP is not signed, so
UP has not signed. That's what Arun is saying.
And
UP has not.
Karnataka has the time has lapsed. Is that true? I mean, just to check.
I don't have any idea. So we'll have to check up from our marketing team and we'll ensure. Shivang, note it down. Please send it to him. Yeah.
Sure. So secondly, on this direct to business segment, we are reading, lately that a few of the states have raised the open access charges plus the cross subsidy surcharge as well. And there are a few more petitions in the pipeline. They're trying to block this business as such, where industries are directly trying to get into the exchanges per se. So is there any comment on that side as well?
Well, that also is something which you have been seeing off and on in every state. A state which has been liberal for 2 seasons suddenly decides that it will go back 2 steps after that. I think the point remains that at the distribution end, how quickly you can do the network rollout and actually give that competitive choice to an energy intensive unit. Now, in spite of those raised surcharges, people have been doing business with us. And in spite of, the interesting thing is that whenever you look at negative drivers for the business, sometimes they add to volumes, they add to fundamentals. So right now, I think we were just talking offline that the last few days we actually get to see distribution companies reporting record collections, and that's when there has been a festival and a holiday period and people actually asking for opening of those windows further. So in a sense, there are some perverse drivers which come into the business in the name of, if I say, commercial sense. But end of it, it again goes back 180 degrees. So until you actually see network rollout and access to the end consumer, I think only then these trends start to make meaningful sense. Right now, we start reading too much into an open access regime being reversed or taking a couple of steps backward, because we've been watching. I mean, we are like the electricity exchange, which is their IEX. They keep reporting some of these things. Now, if I were to just do a content analysis of the last 8 quarters, I think it's only showing a back and forth. It is not really saying that there was a reversal and so on. The same volumes, if the open access customer is not coming to the direct procurement, the utility is buying and buying on 1-day contracts. So at the end of the day, we are kind of, I'm not saying we are agnostic to it, because longer term it is impeding a picture, but I think we just need to stay patient when it comes to evolution of this industry. In sorry, the mega for us, I think you have the number.
3 projects, EV Power, TRN, and they are the only one which are pending during the current year. The total may not have been.
700 or something. Details.
I'll give you the exact one.
And then
I'll give you the
next
exact
on the line
number.
will be Tista, as he has said.
Can you give us a sense of how successful you have been on the deep platform? I know that there's been too many contracts, but can you say that you won like more than half of the contracts or something like that? And is it just the power traders who have been winning on the deep platform, or have the generators themselves also been winning on the D platform?
I think I'll make a qualified statement in terms of some generators also being able to do that, do it successfully. However, I think some of the things that every participant have discovered is that even the transaction costs are a little onerous for the kind of trades that are happening. So there's already talk of that. But in terms of success rate, I will not be able to say it's a 50% number and so on. I'll say that we have been doing better than what we would be doing through a physical process. But you want to break up in terms of number of bids where we were partly successful or we got the entire capacity fetched.
We'll analyze and circulate. The only thing which we have taken up on the ministry also, that the type of this bidding, what happens, either it goes for unextended timeline or when it is happening in last 15-20 minutes of the time limit which is there. So that is the challenge everyone is facing, and we have taken up the matter with the ministry, and I'm sure that they will be coming out with whatever clarification etc. is there. So there are challenges in deep. It's not yet that it has set in completely. There are challenges which we have taken up, we have priced, and I'm sure ministry will take its own time to come out with the solutions.
Is it fair to say that deep is in general more suited for a power trader to bid on rather than, because of the customized nature of the demand that's been put up there, rather than a producer?
I'll not give a very categorical statement. That's what I'm saying. These are the things when the new thing is introduced, obviously everyone tries. And some of the generators, as he rightly said, that they have also tried. Some of the traders, some of them have done through traders. So it's only they evolve, because as a trader we have a capacity to go to the ministry, explain the things, because then we are neutral. See, as a generator, if I go there, there will always be a concern that he is getting impacted and therefore he is raising the concern. But as a trader, we are raising on behalf of everyone, the buyers also. As simple as that, recently we took up the matter that to the distributor company which is buyer, they get all the slots. Okay, what was the bidding done at, so many things. But as a trader and a generator, we are not getting it. So obviously these are the things, teething, I'll not say bias, they are the teething problems. When a process is started, and we have seen the current government that they want to do things with a gusto and a speed. And therefore some of the issues get flagged. One is to keep waiting before doing, or just do it and then keep changing mid-course as it comes. So we have seen the approach, and it's working out well. They have been responsive.
The second question is on IEX. We just noticed that, especially for, let's say, for the month of September, you report something like 63% growth on IEX when the exchange itself only reported like 13% growth. It's like others are really losing market share and you're gaining market share. Is there any trend like that happening there?
No, I think don't conclude on the basis of a month or a quarter. That's the one thing which we always try to communicate at this forum. That fine, the exchange is getting its operations both from members who are, say, grid connected entities and from trader members. Now the onus of the trader members is both in the advance and the credit segments. Now if you look at how the utilities themselves are doing buying at this time and planning for 30-day power based on one-day contracts and hopeful repetition of one-day contracts. So somewhere there will be, this is not even short term, a 1 month window spike of volumes. So do not extrapolate that to say this is how the volume share will look for the entire quarter or for the entire year. So.
And finally, in the last earnings call, when we had asked about deployment of excess cash, you had mentioned that the finance director is working on a business plan that will determine how much surplus funds that you'd be having as a company. Is that exercise done, and is there any conclusion on that?
You have already seen the money being invested in PTC Energy, and PFSL and PTC Financial to the extent of up to 350 crores.
Right. Okay. So that sort of takes care of all the surplus
Takes
funds.
care
that
of
you-
the surplus fund.
Okay, that's fine. Thanks.
To answer your query, there are 3 projects. Maruti Clean is 250 megawatt, TRN and DB is 150 and 250 respectively.
So 750 total.
Total it becomes 650. Any further question?
Yeah, please.
It varies from project to project. We are targeting around 14 to 16% of IRR. Post tax, yeah.
And would PTC Financial Services be lending to any of these projects?
PTC Financial Services has lended only to one project. That was the last year in the FY 2016, that's all.
Because being a subsidiary company, there are certain.
There are 2 things. One is that they have a own exposure limit and it's a related party transaction. And we are doing on a competitive basis. Where? No, there are different projects. For every project, there are different lenders. Somewhere is ICICI, there somewhere is Indus Bank, somewhere it is REC. So it is being done on a competitive basis. Even when we gave it to PTC Financial, it was on a competitive basis.
Thank you very much for being with us, and we'll meet soon, and we'll have tea together and whatever queries, etc. But you must interact with my the young boy on the side. Thank you.
Thank you.